Hello, everyone. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro, along with Richard Fowler, Johnny Joey Jones, Jillian Turner, and Tom Shalhoub. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. The Joe must go dam is bursting. President Biden is reportedly giving serious consideration to whether he should drop out of the race. According to the New York Times, quote, Joe told a key ally that he knows he may not be able to salvage his candidacy if he cannot convince the public in the coming days that he is up for the job after a disastrous debate performance last week. Joe Biden will soon be sitting down for a taped interview with ABC's George Stephanopoulos. And get this, sources say it's only going to last 15 minutes. He will also hit two swing states, campaigning in Wisconsin on Friday and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on Sunday. President Biden saying on a conference call today, quote, I am running. I am the leader of the Democratic Party. No one is pushing me out. I've been knocked down before and counted out my whole life. When you get knocked down, you get back up. He should try telling that to 80% of Americans who believe that Biden is too old to run again for president. Karine Jean-Pierre was back for more gaslighting at the podium.
The president is clear-eyed, and he is staying in the race. The president responded directly when asked about this question because we said that we would, and the president said it is no, it is absolutely false. That's coming directly from him.
Is President Biden considering stepping down?
Absolutely not. There's a cold, there's a jet lag. You combine that. He continues to work for the American people day in and day out, around the clock.
What does the president do outside the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m.?
He's been pretty much out there after the hours of 4 p.m. and before 10 a.m. for sure.
Have an afternoon nap every day.
I am not going to speak to sources out there, unnamed sources out there. He is as sharp as ever. When I walk into the Oval Office or see him on Air Force One, I have to be on top of my game.
Joe Biden is staring down a mutiny, and it's getting worse by the second. House Democrats are meeting right now after reports of 25 members drafting a letter calling for Joe Biden to leave the race. And it's already spilling out into public view.
My concern is that a criminal and his gang are about to take over our government, and we may never get it back.
There will be lots of discussion and lots of people weighing in, and I know this is a moving target. It's got to happen quickly, but I can guarantee you, Chris Hayes, there will be massive unity and focus on that task when we get to the end of this process.
He has to make this decision alone. No one else can. I just ask that he be honest with himself about the situation, what he faces, and what the impact will be on history.
And Democratic governors will be gathering in the next hour at the White House for a Joe Biden wellness check. They want to see up close for themselves if the president is still with it.
I think the governors just want a direct and candid conversation with the president. We want to make sure he's doing okay. We all know him. He has formed a personal relationship with us, and he says he is, and we take him at his word. But it's always good to see somebody in person.
People just expressed that they wanted to hear more from the president, that they certainly were concerned about the debate performance, but they just want to make sure that this is the right direction and that the president reassures them.
You know, Joey, it's kind of interesting that you've got Governor Pritzker and some of the other Democrats who are saying, we're not saying that he should leave the race, but we just want to make sure for ourselves that he's okay. Well, what happens if they think he's not okay?
What does happen? I mean, one thing's for sure, he can't trust anyone. I mean, the turncoats are out en masse. I think that Joe better wrangle the troops and get a stronghold on them there. I don't know. Up until today, I truly believe there was no scenario that wasn't physical health, like truly a physical emergency, that would have him leave. But you know, all the reporting today, some of it has to be true. I mean, Kareem, I'm glad she said she's on her A game in front of the president, because she certainly isn't at that podium. I mean, she's doing as good a job as she can, but she's not doing a good job, because every time she answers a question, 3 more come up. Americans are sitting here looking at this going, this is a sinking ship. And does the captain ride it to the ground or to the bottom of the sea, or does he jump? I don't know.
Okay, but you know, Jillian, it's interesting. We had heard that the president had a cold. Then yesterday, for the first time, we hear it was jet lag. And then Karine says today, well, it's my bad, you know, that I forgot to mention jet lag. But how can there be jet lag if he literally landed 12 days or 13 days before the debate? And then during the debate between the hours of 10 and 4, when he's alert, he took a nap every day.
Well, I think to Joey's point, it all just creates more questions than answers, what she is telling the public right now. The cold excuse is, if the president was sick in the days leading up to the debate, why did they not disclose that to staff, to the American people? And then why did they send him to Waffle House immediately after the debate to go shake hands with everybody and their mother and infect them? And then on foreign travel, I'm not an expert on much, but I'm an expert on the president's foreign travel. With President Bush, I went on 4 foreign trips. You do these like around the world in 10-day trips, 10 countries in 10 days. Yeah. They are grueling. They are exhausting. They are sometimes disorienting, because you don't know where you are half the time because you work 24 hours a day. But they are a really important part of the president's baseline, his core responsibilities. Really important stuff happens on these overseas trips. Diplomacy at the highest levels, treaties, pacts, major agreements get signed that change regional relationships. It's not enough for the president to just get by or get through, as Karine was saying today over and over at the podium. It just doesn't meet the bar.
To be fair, you're not bringing anything new to a Waffle House. I mean, I think COVID's got its own permanent seat in the corner. Like, you're not going to dirty up. You only bring something home from the Waffle House.
Well, it doesn't have to be from the president.
And, you know, Tom, Axios is reporting that the top Democratic lawmakers are madder about the president's denial and the deflection than they are about the debate performance. And they see his remaining time on the ticket as a threat to those who are on the down ballot races.
You know why they're really mad at him? Because he made them look bad. And that's why the media is all in on this. I'm not sure I believe any of this stuff with the ally. Who's the ally? Yeah. Who are they talking? Does his name rhyme with Havin Husam? I mean, you could call anyone and say he's an ally. By the way, he said, I'm heading to the White House to support the president. Yeah, and Brutus headed to Rome to support Julius Caesar. Didn't work out that way, though. But I think... the people around him, if they really were an ally, they would have, you know, said what he told them to say, which is, no, I'm in this for the long haul. That's what he wants to do. He's going to hold on. I look at this like Thanksgiving. You know, you go to Thanksgiving and you have already decided, you and all your brothers and sisters, we're going to take the keys away from Pops after Thanksgiving dinner. But nobody speaks up. And they say, I think, Stephen, you want to talk to Dad, don't you, about the keys? No, Stephanie wants to talk to Dad. No one's going to take the keys. If he's holding the keys and he's not going to give them up, then he's not going to step down. That's all there is.
Well, certainly with Jill and with Hunter, I mean, if they're his closest confidants, they don't want him to step down either.
Yeah. And I mean, so that was the big surprise. You know, his family's huddling around him. Of course, this is like Game of Thrones. It's just the family at this point, you know, and they're going to hold on and they're going to hold fast. But can they get through this? They all feel like they look dumb now because they've been defending him and he made them look bad. So if he can go out here and he can do these, you know, I don't know if you were impressed by that press conference we just saw. I don't think it was the smartest thing to read about the Civil War when, you know, it seems like he was there.
All right. Richard, you know, the idea that the White House would actually come out and say, look, the president is alert between 10 and 4, but if he's preparing for a debate, he needs a nap. But how do you are you confident that the president doesn't freeze up the way he did at the debate when he meets with foreign leaders? Are you comfortable if it's outside of that 6-hour sphere?
Well, I think that's the question that a lot of the American people are asking themselves, right?
Yeah.
Is how you can't unwatch what you saw on Thursday. Yeah. And I think now more than ever, ultimately, this is the president's, I agree with Thomas, the president's decision on what he's going to do. And you know, this idea that he's considering it based on, I hate reports, and I've said this during the Trump years too, reports from anonymous sources annoy me. Like, if you're going to say it, just put your name behind it.
Sure.
But what the president did say today, that he does plan on staying. But if he does plan on staying, I think there has to be some change in the strategy from this White House and from this campaign. I said this yesterday. I'll be a broken record, and I'll say it again today. If he is going to stay in this race, let's get a town hall. Let's get him talking to voters. Let's do some more interviews, not just one with George Stephanopoulos. Let's do one with Bret Baier. Let's do one with Shannon Bream. Let's do one with Dana Perino.
But no one's going to go to a town hall at like 1:30 in the afternoon.
Well, let's do whenever. Listen, I think he needs to be in battleground states doing it. I think he needs to hold a primetime press conference, get out there and talk to the American people. If the press's argument is we're questioning whether or not the president is capable of doing the job, we're questioning whether or not the president can do the job outside of a teleprompter, go show them that you can do it. And let's be very clear. Not only, I mean, we're having a conversation about age, but whether it's Donald Trump or it's Joe Biden. And if we're having a question about age and health, I remember, I'm not too old to remember when John McCain was running for president. He released all of his health records, and journalists went in there with their clipboards and looked at boxes. It's a conversation about
cognitive ability.
Sure, but that's a conversation about health. And I remember when John McCain was running, and people went in with their clipboards and looked at boxes and boxes of health records.
That is not the issue. We've got a president who cannot speak.
Hold on. But that's my point. If it is a conversation about his health, is what we're having a conversation about, correct?
No, whether or not he freezes up in front of world leaders, just us, he freezes up in front of.
This is not a question about his health.
I don't have anything on his cognitive health. Do you?
That's my point. I think we should.
What is your point?
I'm making it. If you wouldn't interrupt me.
Yeah, go ahead. What is it?
I'm saying that if we're having a conversation about his health, we should be having a conversation about any 80-year-old running for president about their health, and we should look at all their health records for both Donald Trump
took a cognitive test.
No. I'm talking about all their health. Period. They're 80 years old and they're leading the free world. We should be able to look at all their health records.
You're dancing.
I'm not dancing.
You are dancing.
I think most millennials agree with me.
No, most millennials are against Joe Biden. Okay, here's the thing. All the president had to do was walk out of the Oval, right down to that press room, and say, I'm here. What do you want? And you would still
be asking questions about his cognitive health, Judge Jeanine?
He's still incapable of answering. No, if he could answer that, I wouldn't be.
You'd still be asking
questions. Coming up, Lord helped us. A shocking report claims that Hunter Biden, here's another good one, is helping his dad run the country.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.